Joshua blinked once. That's all he could do back then, blink. A signal to the nurse, a code to the machine, a confirmation to the world that inside the vegetative body, someone was still trapped. Still aware, still suffering. And when Jennifer Lancaster, daughter of South City's most powerful business tycoon, stood beside his hospital bed and said, "It's your baby, you'll marry me," Joshua blinked again. Consent. The next time he opened his eyes fully, he was signing a marriage certificate, his hands trembling under the hospital robe, while Jennifer wore designer heels and didn't bother to look at him twice. That was 5 years ago. Now he stood tall in her office, his posture straight, eyes sharp, suit charcoal black, perfectly fitted. The same hands that once shook while signing the wedding papers now calmly slid a new document across the marble desk: divorce. Jennifer, perched behind her sleek desk, glanced up from her tablet. Not even surprise, just indifference. Her champagne blonde hair was tied into a soft bun, her crimson lips glossed, her aura as icy as the air conditioner humming behind her. "Is this a joke?" she asked flatly. Joshua didn't answer. His voice didn't tremble, his hands didn't shake. He just looked at her like someone looking at a stranger in a waiting room, detached, polite, but emotionally absent. Jennifer didn't touch the papers. She leaned back, adjusting her cuff bracelet, unimpressed. "Did Edward put you up to this?" His jaw tightened for just a second. Not because of Edward, but because of Anna, their daughter. She had turned 5 yesterday. The party had been lavish, as always. Golden balloons, imported desserts, floral walls plastered with Jennifer's Instagram handle. Anna wore a custom Dior dress with pearls in her hair, but none of that mattered, not the party, not the candles. Just her wish. She had stood there, on a velvet stepstool, Paolo down, misses together, surrounded by flashing phones and polite applause. She closed her eyes, everyone leaned in, and then she said it, her voice clear as glass: "I wish Mommy would marry Uncle Edward, Daddy's boring." The silence that followed had been instant and suffocating. Joshua didn't move. He just looked at his daughter, the child he had raised, rocked to sleep, fed candy from scratch when Jennifer refused to touch sugar. Anna looked right past him and giggled at Edward, who winked and gave her a sugar-coated macaron. That was the moment something in Joshua unlatched. Not broke, because breaking implied it had been whole. No, this wasn't shattering, this was release. Now, standing in Jennifer's office, he saw the faintest flicker of confusion behind her mascara-laced lashes. "You're serious," she finally said. He nodded. "Just like that?" He tilted his head. "Jennifer. I was in a coma when we got married. I came back to life and stepped into hell. You didn't marry me for love. You married me for damage control, and I accepted that, because I thought she might at least love me." Jennifer's lips curled slightly. "And now?" Joshua smiled faintly. "Now I know better." Jennifer pushed back her chair, finally picking up the papers. Her fingers traced the numbers, the settlement amount. Her eyes narrowed. "You really think this buys your way out?" He met her gaze directly. "No, but it buys my silence, my freedom, and my absence." He turned. Before he stepped out the door, he said softly, "Tell Anna I won't ruin her next birthday wish." Joshua never forgot the silence in their home. It wasn't peaceful silence, the kind that settled between people who knew each other so well that words weren't needed. No, theirs was a thick, sharp kind of quiet, like frost spread thin across glass. Every sound in the house, the tick of the wall clock, the hum of the wine fridge, the echo of his own footsteps, was a reminder that the space wasn't shared. It was merely occupied. Jennifer never welcomed him into it. Their 5-year marriage had been more like an extended press release than a union. Photo shoots, red carpet galas, shareholder dinners, every touch, every smile choreographed for flashbulbs and corporate investors. At home, she barely acknowledged him. Her rooms were hers alone. The master bedroom had never been theirs. From day one, Joshua was directed to the guest wing, as though he were a live-in employee, not her husband. Which, technically, he was. He still remembered the beginning, the bizarre, surreal start of it all. He'd been working as a junior legal advisor in Lancaster Group's compliance division, just 2 months out of his coma. Still adjusting to the stiffness in his legs, still quietly wondering if he was really alive, or if the world around him was just a continuation of some internal purgatory. His existence was a blur of hushed voices, signature stamps, and ignored memos. No one looked him in the eye, no one knew his name. Except Jennifer, or rather, she only noticed him when she wanted to punish herself. It happened late one night. The building was mostly empty. Jennifer stood alone in the courtyard, barefoot, a bottle of red wine in one hand, mascara running down her cheek. Her usually flawless hair hung loose, wild, her posture swaying. Joshua had only come out to smoke, though he didn't even like cigarettes. They just gave him something to do when the world felt too still. She didn't recognize him at first, or pretended not to. "Do you believe in revenge?" she asked him out of nowhere. Joshua blinked. "I believe in contracts." Jennifer let out a short, humorless laugh. "Figures." She sat on the edge of the fountain and stared into the water. "My brother thinks I'm pathetic." Joshua said nothing. "He thinks I'm weak for loving someone who didn't choose me. He told me I'd never be good enough for Edward." Joshua stiffened. The name, Edward Lancaster, her half-brother from another mother, smug, camera-ready, and gifted with the family's marketing wing. Rumors had always swirled, but no one dared confirm what everyone whispered. Jennifer loved him, obsessively, secretly, quietly, and Edward? He married someone else, without telling her. So she found Joshua. Or rather, she used him. The wine, the silence, her pain, it all coalesced into one blurred night. A moment of vulnerability disguised as intimacy. She kissed him, and he let her. He held her, and she let him believe it meant something. But the next morning, her voice was ice. "Leave before anyone sees you." He did. 2 weeks later, she summoned him to her father's office. The pregnancy test lay between them on the marble desk. Her father barely glanced at Joshua. Jennifer spoke with the same tone she used in boardrooms. "You'll marry me." Joshua didn't speak. He didn't agree, but he didn't walk away either. Maybe part of him wanted to believe that something real could grow from the wreckage, but Jennifer never pretended otherwise. "You don't need to love me," she said. "You don't need to touch me again. All you need to do is exist beside me, in public." "And in private?" he had asked, already knowing the answer. "You'll stay out of my way." So he did. He moved into the Lancaster mansion and became part of the wallpaper. At business dinners, he played the role of attentive husband. At home, he ate alone. Their daughter Anna was born into marble floors and high expectations. Jennifer didn't cry when she arrived. She didn't hold her longer than necessary. "She looks like you," she said, passing the infant back to the nurse like a returned product. Unfortunate. Joshua took Anna into his arms and didn't let go. From that moment on, she was his entire world. He changed every diaper, stayed up during every fever, packed every school lunch. He cooked, he cleaned, he built her crib with his own hands. Jennifer remained a figure Anna only saw at galas and photo shoots. But she was always dressed perfectly, always poised, always distant, and Anna, to Joshua's heartache, adored her. Even though it was Joshua who rocked her to sleep, it was Jennifer she called beautiful. Even though Joshua made her birthday cakes from scratch, it was Edward whose store-bought pastries she bragged about at school. "Uncle Edward lets me stay up late," she'd say. "Uncle Edward buys me 10 Barbies, not just one." Joshua would just smile and say, "That's nice, sweetie." Then he'd go back to boiling pear and hawthorn candy, because that's what she once said she liked. Anna had clapped her little hands when he first made them, but now? "Ew, these again?" she'd whine. "Uncle Edward brings candy from France, yours is boring." She tossed them into the trash, not even looking at his face. Joshua didn't react. That was the rhythm of his life. At work, he was ignored by Jennifer's father, dismissed by her board, mocked quietly by the other men. Edward made passive-aggressive jokes in front of Anna. "Your daddy sure has a lot of free time," he'd say with a smile. "Does he even work?" At home, Jennifer remained untouched, unavailable. She came and went as she pleased. Any attempts at conversation were met with vague, one-word responses. She never raised her voice. That would require emotion. She didn't argue, she simply didn't engage. Once, Joshua asked her if she had ever imagined a different kind of life. She didn't even blink. "This is the life I chose, and the man I didn't." There were no pictures of their wedding in the house, only posed images from brand campaigns and social functions. Anna grew up watching her mother's indifference and learned how to wield it like a weapon. She ignored Joshua when he asked about school. She rolled her eyes when he kissed her forehead. She screamed at him when he refused to let her binge candy before bed. "You're so boring," she shouted once, slamming the door. "Mom says you were just a mistake." Jennifer never denied saying it. Joshua didn't fight back. He never raised his voice, never said a cruel word. He just quietly adjusted Anna's blankets that night and left a piece of candy on her nightstand in case she changed her mind. She didn't. Instead, she tossed it out the next morning, right in front of him. He stopped making them after that. What hurt the most wasn't Jennifer's apathy, it was Anna's reflection of it. That a child he had poured 5 years of love into could so casually mirror her mother's coldness, could look at him and see an accessory, a dull placeholder. Still, he stayed. Stayed through Jennifer's flirtations with Edward during family brunches, stayed through the Lancaster Foundation Gala, where Edward was named Guardian of the Year, while Joshua stood at the back, forgotten. Stayed through whispers about how well Jennifer bounced back from scandal, as if he weren't part of the narrative at all. Then came Anna's 5th birthday. That velvet stool, that tiara, that perfect pink backdrop. "I wish Mommy would marry Uncle Edward, Daddy's boring." He hadn't moved, not even blinked, not like the old days. Just stood there, frozen, watching his daughter press her palms together like she was asking the universe for something that would finally fix her life. Something better than him. Edward smiled indulgently. Jennifer sipped champagne. No one looked at Joshua, no one noticed when he quietly left the party. No one noticed he didn't return home that night. Jennifer hadn't called. Anna hadn't asked. And the system, silent for years, finally spoke again, as if summoned by the final blow to his spirit. "Host, mission complete, you may now return." Joshua stared at the sunset from his car window, blinking once. Freedom didn't look like fireworks, it looked like letting go of people who never even realized they had you. Joshua didn't flinch when Jennifer flipped to the last page of the divorce agreement. The silence in her office was no different from their home, cold, static, clinical. The ticking of the gold desk clock matched the rhythm of his heart, steady, detached, ready. Across from him, Jennifer tilted her head slightly, her lips twitching as she noticed the check stapled to the final page. She slid her manicured finger over the number. This is the exact amount my father once offered you to leave me. How poetic," she said, her voice dry. Joshua didn't respond. He hadn't come for poetry. Jennifer leaned back into her chair, one brow raised. "So now you're pretending it was your idea all along? What's the angle, Joshua? You want attention? Pity? Congratulations for finally growing a spine?" He watched her for a moment, really watched her. The same flawless cheekbones, the glossy lipstick, the designer suit she wore like armor, but there was nothing inside it, just echo and glass. "I'm not pretending anything," he said quietly. "I'm just leaving with what I should have taken 5 years ago. Silence, money, and my dignity." Jennifer exhaled a humorless breath through her nose. "Wow, dramatic, but you forgot something." She tossed the agreement back across the desk. "You didn't ask for custody. You don't want your precious daughter anymore?" Joshua's lips barely moved. "She's not mine." Jennifer's eyes narrowed slightly. "Excuse me? I raised her, fed her, held her every night. But she's never been mine, not really." His voice never wavered. "She belongs to the world you made her believe in. The one where love is a brand, and family is a facade. I was just the man who didn't buy her enough candy." Jennifer smirked. Still stuck on that? He could see it now as clearly as the day it happened. Anna, in her custom uniform, tiny shoes tapping across the kitchen tiles. She had come home crying because Uncle Edward hadn't picked her up from school that day. Joshua had tried to cheer her up. He'd spent the entire afternoon boiling fresh fruit, stirring the sugar carefully, her favorite. Pear and hawthorn, sweet but healthy. She used to love them. He'd brought them out in a little tin, warm and fragrant, just the way she liked. She took one look at it, snatched the whole tin, and dumped it into the trash. "I want Uncle Edward's candy. His comes in shiny wrappers and he doesn't make me wait. I don't want your garbage." He remembered the way her voice cracked, not with pain, but disgust. She was 5. Jennifer, who had overheard the entire thing, didn't say a word, just walked past him like he didn't exist. That day had been the second crack in his resolve. The final one came on Anna's birthday. He hadn't planned on attending, but Sarah now, had convinced him. "You'll regret it if you don't go," she had said, "even if she doesn't see you." He stood at the edge of the party, invisible as ever. The house glowed in pastel colors, guests drank champagne from crystal flutes. Jennifer posted photos with Anna like they were the perfect mother-daughter duo. And then the music cut. Anna climbed onto a velvet stool under the flower arch. She clapped her hands excitedly, told everyone to shush, and closed her eyes. Joshua braced himself. Maybe she'd wish for a pony, or a bigger pool. "I wish Mommy would marry Uncle Edward, Daddy's boring." Every adult froze. Jennifer's expression didn't change. Edward chuckled. "And Joshua?" He simply stepped outside. That was when the system finally spoke again. The voice, once robotic, now tinged with something almost gentle. "Host, mission complete. You may return to your world, or stay. Choice is yours." He didn't answer right away. He drove to the beach, sat in his car with the windows down, the smell of salt hitting his face, the same beach he once dreamed of taking Anna to, just the two of them, sandcastles, candy wrapped in tissue paper. Gone. He closed his eyes. "Take me back." There was a pause. Then the system answered. "Host, due to backlog in central transmigration channels, all returns are now subject to a 3-year cooldown." He laughed. He actually laughed. "Of course. 3 years," he muttered. "Figures. Would you like to stay and complete side missions until departure?" He thought of Anna's face as she smiled at Edward, the way she wiped Joshua's kisses from her cheek. How Jennifer had told him, once, during an argument, "You're not a father, you're a placeholder until someone better comes along." He thought of the night he met Sarah, how Daniel had clung to his leg and called him Brother Josh within 10 minutes. How Sarah had handed him homemade soup and told him softly, "I think you're better at this than you realize." "I'll stay," he told the system, "for now." Now, back in Jennifer's office, she tapped a pen against the papers, not signing. "I never thought you'd be the one to walk away," she murmured. He tilted his head. "You never thought I could walk at all, remember? You married a man who was still learning how to stand without falling." Jennifer's face twitched. "You begged me to keep the baby," she said suddenly. He blinked. "That night," she continued, her voice sharper now, "when I found out I was pregnant, I was going to terminate. You cried, Joshua. You said if I didn't keep her, you'd die." "I meant it," he said quietly. "Well, you got what you wanted, a daughter who hates you, a wife who never wanted you. You happy now?" He didn't answer, because happiness, this had nothing to do with it. This was release, not relief, not revenge, just the ending of a chapter no one else realized had started in pain. She finally signed. Tore the check from the booklet and flicked it across the desk toward him. It fluttered to a stop beside his fingers. "You have 3 days to leave the property," she said, "and if you ever come near Anna again, I'll make sure you regret it." He didn't reply, he didn't threaten her back, he simply folded the agreement, pocketed the check, and stood. "Joshua," she said as he reached the door. He stopped. "Does she mean nothing to you now?" He paused for only a second. "She never did," he said. "Not to you." Then he left. The new apartment smelled like salt and wood polish. Joshua stood in the center of the living room, box cutter in hand, staring at the modest furnishings. There was no chandelier, no marble floor, no butler outside the door, just a window that opened onto the sea and silence that didn't feel suffocating. For the first time in years, he heard the waves more clearly than his own thoughts. He didn't unpack immediately, he didn't cook, he just sat on the floor, back against the wall, letting the breeze roll in. The system hadn't spoken since his decision to stay, and for that, he was grateful. He didn't want missions, he didn't want instructions, he just wanted a pause. He lasted 2 days before meeting her. It was mid-morning. He was carrying out trash when he saw the little boy waddling toward the edge of the pavement, barefoot, curly-haired, holding a plastic bucket in one hand. "Hey," Joshua called, moving quickly, "where's your mom?" The boy looked up with round, tear-brimmed eyes. He didn't speak. Instead, he clung tightly to Joshua's pant leg and mumbled, "Hug." Joshua blinked. That was the first hug he'd received since Anna learned to speak. A woman came rushing down from the stairs moments later, long chestnut hair swept into a messy ponytail, a doctor's ID card still clipped to her collar, her face flushed with panic until she saw them. "I'm so sorry," she said breathlessly. "He always sneaks away when I'm not looking." Joshua looked from the boy to her. "He's fine, just gave me a surprise." She knelt beside the boy. "Daniel, you scared Mommy. What did I say about going near the road?" Daniel frowned, then glanced back up at Joshua. "Brother Josh?" "Brother who?" she asked, confused. "He just called me that," Joshua muttered, awkward. "I didn't tell him my name." She offered her hand. "I'm Linda, we just moved in next door." They didn't shake hands. Daniel was still gripping Joshua's sleeve. Later that afternoon, Linda knocked on his door with a plate of cookies and an apology. She looked embarrassed, smiling faintly. "Daniel doesn't really open up to strangers. He lost his parents in a car accident last year. I'm his aunt." Joshua stared at the cookies. "Would you maybe consider babysitting?" she asked gently. "Just until I find someone reliable. I work long hospital shifts, and Daniel seems to like you." Joshua hesitated. "Name your price," she added. He didn't say yes because of the money. He said yes because Daniel looked up at him with the same bright-eyed trust Anna used to have, before it turned to contempt. The first few days were awkward. Joshua didn't know how to talk to someone so small anymore. His memories of fatherhood were full of tension and rejection. But Daniel was different, quiet, curious, affectionate without demand. He clapped every time Joshua won a game on the tablet. He sat beside him while Joshua worked through dusty law books. He beamed when Joshua handed him one of the old homemade pear hawthorn candies. Daniel took one bite and exclaimed with glee, "Brother Josh makes the best candy ever." Joshua froze. Those were the exact words Anna had once said, years ago, when she was still small enough to climb into his lap. He'd never heard them since, and now, from someone else's child, they hit harder than he expected. "Can I have more?" Daniel asked, eyes wide. "Of course," Joshua said quietly. "I'll make you a whole jar." At night, Daniel cried in his sleep. Sometimes he called for his mom and dad, sometimes he simply whimpered. Joshua would sit by the bed, gently brushing the boy's hair back, whispering, "You're okay, I'm here." The boy would cling to his hand, eyes still wet. "Can you be my dad?" Joshua never answered, he just smiled. The ache was still there, under the surface, not rage, not grief, just a quiet bruise that never faded. Linda noticed the bond but didn't comment. She kept to herself mostly. She read medical journals on the couch while Joshua and Daniel played. She made him tea without asking. She cooked fish and always removed the bones before serving it. She wasn't warm in a flashy way, she was gentle, simple, present. It wasn't romance, it wasn't revenge, it was peaceful. Joshua didn't realize how starved he was for normalcy until it became routine. Waking up to Daniel's soft knocks on his door, eating Linda's quietly perfect meals, sharing silent evenings on the balcony while Daniel stacked magnetic blocks on the floor, no staged photos, no boardroom fake smiles, no champagne parties with hollow laughter. Just warm tea, the hum of a kettle, the faint sound of crayon scraping paper. Daniel had a habit of saving half a candy for later. He'd wrap it back in tissue and place it in a tiny metal box Joshua gave him. One night, as Joshua tucked him in, Daniel whispered, "I don't eat it all, because it feels like if I finish it, the nice moments will go away too." Joshua sat there long after Daniel had fallen asleep, staring at the soft rise and fall of his chest. That night, he didn't sleep either. He thought of Anna. Her voice as she shouted, "Uncle Edward is better than you." Her eyes looking through him as if he were a piece of old wallpaper. He remembered the feel of her small fingers pushing his hand away. The weight of 5 years crashing down into one single wish. "I want Mommy to marry Uncle Edward." Joshua wondered if children instinctively knew who would love them less, and gravitated there. Meanwhile, Jennifer spiraled. It started small. Anna refused to eat the lobster bisque made by the new chef and demanded the soup Daddy used to make. When Jennifer offered imported Belgian chocolate, Anna sniffed and said, "Daddy's candy was healthier." Anna threw tantrums, slammed doors, asked to call Edward more often, threw her school bag into the koi pond because the lunch was too fancy. Jennifer watched all of it with a detached sort of disbelief. She still believed this was a phase, that Joshua would return, that he had nowhere else to go. She told herself that daily. Until the day the butler reported that Mr. Joshua had declined Anna's school visitation request. He what? Jennifer asked, her voice sharp. He said, Miss Anna has moved on, and so has he. Jennifer threw her wine glass against the fireplace that night. She told herself it was about pride, about control, not regret, not loss. Joshua knew nothing of this. He didn't need to. He had Daniel now. One night, after Linda returned from a long hospital shift, she found Joshua sitting with Daniel in the living room, surrounded by building blocks and laughter. You didn't have to stay so late, she said, kicking off her shoes. He looked up. Didn't feel like leaving. She smiled, tired, honest. You look more at home here than I do. He didn't answer. She walked into the kitchen, poured 2 cups of tea, and brought one to him. As he took it, she said softly, You know, Daniel has started drawing your face. Joshua blinked. What? Linda pulled a folded sheet of paper from her purse, crayon scribbles, a stick figure with glasses and a smile. Next to it, in wobbly handwriting, Brother Josh, my best friend, hero, maybe Dad? He laughed. It was short, choked. She looked at him, her voice steady. It's okay if you're not ready, but I think he's already chosen you. He held the drawing for a long time, no flashbacks, no pain, just stillness. Jennifer had never looked at him that way. Anna had stopped calling him Dad before she could spell it. Now this boy, someone else's pain, had found safety in him. This wasn't revenge, this wasn't replacing anyone, this was healing, quietly, gently. Joshua finally put the drawing on the fridge with a magnet. And the next morning, he made a new batch of candy. When Daniel asked if it was okay to share it with his friends, Joshua nodded. And when Daniel offered him a hug, Joshua knelt and held him tightly. A hug given freely, not earned, not negotiated, not staged, just real. 5 years pass. The sun rises over the city with its usual arrogance, as if nothing ever changed. Joshua adjusts the collar of Daniel's uniform outside the school gates. You forgot your lunchbox again, he says softly, slipping it into his son's bag. Daniel grins sheepishly. Thanks, Dad. Then, a stillness. A presence. He looks up and freezes. A girl stands by the school gate. Her figure tall now, school bag slung over one shoulder, sleeves crisp, posture stiff. Her face is sharper, older, but the resemblance is unmistakable. Anna. She's not the little girl who once ran barefoot through marble halls. She's grown into the Lancaster legacy, composed, guarded, face unreadable. Her gaze locks with Joshua's for half a second. Something flickers, grief, maybe, or confusion. She parts her lips. But the word dies. She lowers her head, walks past. Joshua doesn't move. He doesn't call out. Daniel whispers, Dad. Who was that? He lies. No one. But Jennifer sees everything from the tinted window of her black sedan parked across the street. By the time Joshua turns, she's already stepping out, heels clicking against the pavement like accusations. You just had to show up here, she says. Her tone is velvet-wrapped venom. Joshua's hands slide into his pockets. Calm. Your family doesn't own the school, Jennifer. She crosses her arms. But you knew she was enrolled here. You timed this. Believe what you want, he says, glancing back at the school gate. She walked away, not me. Her jaw tightens. Don't act like the victim. You walked away from all of us. No, he corrects. I walked away from you. Don't confuse that. Jennifer's breath catches, not because his words are cruel, but because they're true, and she knows it. But still, she strikes. You think Linda's a replacement, a project to heal your bruised ego? His eyebrow lifts. You've been doing your homework. Jennifer steps closer, voice sharp. There are rumors. She's connected to the Yu family. Joshua says nothing. That silence alone is confirmation. Jennifer narrows her eyes. So, you think you've struck gold now? Found a powerful woman to back you? He chuckles. Interesting, coming from someone chasing Edward, a divorced man who won't even look at you unless cameras are on. Her face falls. He leans in slightly, voice low and cold. Don't project. That hits harder than she expected, because it's true. Edward has grown distant, polite, but distant. The sparkle that once made her feel invincible now flickers only when press is involved. And Anna has stopped sitting next to her at dinners. She eats in silence, excuses herself early. Her gaze often drifts toward the garden where Joshua used to sit with her on rainy days, crafting paper boats and stories. Jennifer turns away, searching for control, for footing. You think this is over? That you can parade your happy little replacement family and erase the past? Joshua shakes his head. I'm not parading anything. I'm healing. There's a difference. You're so smug now, she spits. Where was this version of you when we were married? He doesn't blink. Buried under your indifference. That silence is louder than any slap. Jennifer steps back, suddenly unsure. For years, she believed she was the storm in his life, the whirlwind he'd never escape. But now, watching him stand there, steady, composed, unmoved, she realizes something. She no longer is the storm. She's just weather he's already survived. And Anna? Anna stands at the hallway window upstairs, watching her father walk away, again. Only this time, she knows it wasn't his choice. This time, she didn't call him back. And Jennifer, for the first time, sees the truth. Edward doesn't love her. Anna misses her real father. And Joshua, the man she once underestimated, is finally living a life she has no power over. But it's too late. It's far, far too late. The cathedral was decorated in cascading ivory and blush florals, golden lanterns flickering against marble pillars. Photographers whispered to one another, checking lenses. Champagne was poured like water. The press stood behind silk ropes, waiting for a glimpse of South City's most whispered about reunion, Jennifer Lancaster marrying her half-brother Edward in what tabloids were calling the Redemption Union. Anna stood at the end of the aisle in a glittering pink dress, her face frozen in a half-smile that never reached her eyes. She held the petal basket like it was a punishment, not a roll of honor. Jennifer's smile was pristine, teeth white, lipstick perfect, but hollow. Her arm rested in her father's. Edward stood waiting at the altar, hands clasped, smugness polished and sharp, cameras clicked, the orchestra played. But inside, Jennifer felt cold. This was what she had wanted, wasn't it? She had Edward now, the boy she cried over in silence, the man who once married someone else without even telling her. He had come back, he had stayed. And now he wore a tuxedo tailored to perfection, saying the words she once begged to hear. But every time she blinked, she didn't see Edward. She saw Joshua. Specifically, she saw the way he looked at her that day in her office, not angry, not bitter, just done. As if something in him had shut off, never to return. She told herself it didn't matter, that he had been a phase, an obligation. Then why, she wondered, did she keep seeing his face every time she looked at Anna? Meanwhile, miles away, the beachside villa smelled of fireworks and watermelon. Linda sat on a lounge chair with a blanket over her legs, still in her hospital scrubs, a bandage on her forearm. Joshua stood at the grill, flipping skewers of marinated chicken while Daniel danced barefoot in the sand, a sparkler in each hand. The sky was velvet blue, dotted with stars. A gentle wind made the fire crackle. It wasn't a party. Just a moment. One of those rare, honest pauses where no one performed for cameras or expectations. Daniel waddled over, holding a slice of watermelon above his head. "Brother Josh, feed me." Joshua laughed. "You have hands, don't you?" "I like it more when you do it." Linda smiled behind her cup of tea. "He's spoiled." "Yeah?" Joshua said, crouching down. "Whose fault is that?" Daniel leaned in closer, voice quieter. "If you want. You can call me son. I'll call you dad." Joshua froze. Not because it scared him, but because it didn't. He nodded slowly. "Okay, but you better behave, little man. I'm strict about bedtime." Daniel giggled and saluted. "Yes, Dad." Something inside Joshua eased, like a knot uncoiling after years of tension. The system had gone quiet, the countdown still hovered somewhere in his mind, but it no longer felt urgent. He had stopped watching the clock. Just then, Linda's phone buzzed on the table, her brow furrowed as she picked it up, her face blanched. What is it? Joshua asked. She stood quickly, nearly spilling her tea. Dr. Lin, my friend from residency, he got stabbed by a patient. I need to go, they're short-staffed, trauma incoming. Joshua grabbed the car keys before she could say anything else. You're not going alone. They drove in silence, Daniel asleep in the back seat. The ER was chaos, doctors running, patients crying, blood smeared on the floor tiles, the smell of antiseptic mixed with iron. They found Dr. Lin barely conscious on a stretcher, chest bandaged, a team of nurses working on him frantically. Linda pushed through them and immediately took over. A voice echoed in Joshua's head. Host, the probability of Dr. Lin surviving is under 5%. He gritted his teeth. What can I do? Exchange all remaining points, every mission bonus, every stored attribute. In return, Dr. Lin will live, but you can never go home. Joshua didn't hesitate. Take it. Are you sure? You will be trapped in this world permanently. I'm not trapped, I'm choosing. There was a long pause. Confirmed. The moment the system accepted the transfer, the beeping on the monitor beside Dr. Lin stabilized. Linda looked over, eyes wide. What? What just happened? He smiled. She walked over slowly. Did you use all your points to stay? He shook his head. I didn't use them to stay here. I used them to stay with you. Linda didn't speak. Her hands trembled faintly as she adjusted her lab coat, the air still thick with adrenaline and the coppery scent of blood. But her eyes, those soft, steady eyes, didn't waver. They locked with Joshua's like she was trying to confirm what her ears hadn't yet accepted. You really did it, she whispered. You gave it all up. He nodded once. Not for dramatic effect, not for praise, just acknowledgement. He didn't feel like a hero, just settled. For the first time since waking from the coma, he wasn't drifting. Linda looked like she wanted to cry, but the tears didn't fall. Instead, she stepped forward and wrapped her arms around him, not tightly, but fully. It wasn't the kind of hug you give someone who just saved a life, it was the kind of hug you give someone who became your life. I thought you were going to leave, she murmured. I thought I was too, he admitted, until I realized I'd rather be here, even if it means never going back. She looked up, brows furrowed with that quiet intensity he'd come to admire. Why? Because going back means I lose this, he said simply. You, Daniel, nights like this, people who actually see me. They stood in the hallway like that for a long while, neither of them said the word love. It wasn't necessary, not when everything around them already whispered it. Meanwhile, back at the Lancaster estate, chaos was unfolding behind designer curtains and overpriced centerpieces. The reception had started, champagne flowed, the newlyweds, Jennifer and Edward, were being hosted by CEOs and political elites. Anna sat at a table with a tiara on her head and a glass of sparkling grape juice in her hand, stirring it with a silver straw, her face bored. But when the DJ began playing the first dance track, she tugged at Jennifer's dress. Mom? Jennifer smiled without looking down. Yes, sweetheart? Dad's leaving. The smile faltered. What? I heard Grandpa say it, that he left town, that he's not coming back. Ever. Jennifer's throat tightened. Anna continued casually. He said Dad's going home. You said he didn't have one, but maybe he does. Jennifer dropped her wine glass. Edward turned from the photographer. What now? Jennifer's chest rose and fell rapidly. She didn't say a word to him, just turned, walked, then ran. Outside the reception hall, her heels clacked against the stone driveway. The driver blinked at her sudden order. Take me to him. Mrs. The groom. Now. But before the car could even pull out, Edward appeared at the top of the steps. What are you doing? He barked. Jennifer ignored him. He caught her wrist, hard. Don't embarrass me, not today. Let go. You're still not over him, after everything I did for you? His voice rose, red creeping up his neck. You're pathetic. Then, without warning, he slapped her. The sound echoed. Jennifer's head snapped sideways, her eyes blurred, not from tears, but from the stinging disbelief that this was what she had destroyed everything for. She pushed him away. He grabbed her again. She twisted free, heels skidding on the pavement. The balcony, a second-story drop, the wind. She looked him dead in the eyes and said, "You were never him." Then she ran, past the butler, past the shocked guests, leapt the railing, and landed with a harsh thud in the garden below. Pain lanced through her leg. Something snapped, but she didn't stop. She crawled to the gate. Orled herself into her own luxury sports car, slammed the door. The engine roared to life. Her hands were shaking as she shifted gears. She sped down the hill, tires screeching, heart pounding so loudly she couldn't hear the honking of the car swerving around the bend, or the scream of the other driver, or the shatter of glass as her car clipped the railing, spun sideways, and flipped. Jennifer's world turned into white-hot sound, metal crunched, blood smeared, and just before everything went dark, she whispered, "Joshua." The hospital lights flickered dimly overhead. Joshua sat beside Linda in the waiting room, Daniel curled against his chest, fast asleep. The chaos from earlier had thinned, patients now quiet, nurses moving slower, the smell of antiseptic clinging to the walls like fog. He hadn't said much since the system's final words confirmed it. "Host, all remaining points expended, return impossible, you now belong to this timeline." Linda reached over and placed her hand over his. No words were needed, the look in her eyes said everything. She didn't ask for forever, she didn't ask what the cost had been, she just let him know, he didn't have to leave again, he was home. Then a call came from the front desk. There had been an accident, a luxury vehicle, a lone driver, female, identified as Jennifer Lancaster. Joshua didn't speak, he didn't panic, he just stood, handed Daniel gently to Linda, and walked toward the trauma wing, like a man stepping into a familiar graveyard. She was barely conscious. The crash had shattered her femur, glass had torn into her scalp, her lipstick was smeared across her cheek. For once, she looked human, not polished, not powerful, just broken. Like something fragile that had been held too tightly for too long, and then suddenly dropped. Her eyes fluttered open. They landed on him. And just like that, her expression cracked, past the pride, past the coldness, past the shell, just a woman, remembering everything too late. "You came," she whispered, her voice hoarse. "I didn't come for you," Joshua said evenly. She flinched. "I came to say goodbye." Her lip trembled. "I was going to stop you. I didn't know. I thought you'd wait." "I did wait," he said quietly. 5 years. She looked at him with a kind of quiet desperation, as if searching for some trace of the man who used to look at her with awe. But he wasn't there anymore. Only silence. "Joshua," she breathed. "Do you still—" "No," he interrupted. She blinked. "I don't hate you, Jennifer, but I don't owe you forgiveness. You didn't just lose me, you lost what we never even tried to build." She let the tears fall, finally, not out of vanity, not for the cameras, but because there was no audience left to lie to. "And Anna?" she asked. "She's still your daughter," he replied. "But she'll have to come to me when she wants to. I won't chase people anymore." She closed her eyes. "I didn't know it would end like this." "It didn't have to." Then he turned. She called after him. "Joshua? Did you ever love me?" He paused, hand on the door. "I loved the idea that you might love me back. That was my mistake." And he left. Outside, the sun was just beginning to rise, the sky bled pink and gold over the city skyline. Linda stood waiting near the hospital entrance, Daniel holding her hand, still sleepy-eyed and quiet. Joshua stepped beside them. Linda didn't ask what happened. Daniel looked up, holding out a tiny, crumpled candy from his pocket. "For the ride home, Dad?" Joshua took it. Unwrapped it slowly. And for the first time in years, it tasted sweet again. The first thing Jennifer noticed when she woke was the hum of the ceiling fan. Not the scent of peonies from her curated perfume diffusers, not the click of heels across polished marble, just the soft rhythmic buzz of cheap air conditioning above a hospital bed. Her left leg was suspended in traction, her right hand wrapped in gauze, a dull ache burned behind her eyes. When she turned her head, pain flared down her neck, but she still managed to look toward the small table by the bed. No flowers, no balloons, no Edward. A nurse entered quietly, her steps professional, distant. She checked the IV line, jotted something on a clipboard, and left. Jennifer didn't speak. She didn't even ask what day it was. What did it matter? Days meant nothing when everything inside you felt still. Later, when she gathered enough strength to sit up, she noticed the metal drawer under her hospital tray, the same kind they used in every private room, a place for patients to keep watches, rings, or memories. She reached for the handle, pulled it open. Inside was a single, crumpled piece of paper towel. She frowned, then slowly lifted it with trembling fingers. It unfolded to reveal a candy, pale amber, slightly sticky, dented, misshapen. A pear and hawthorn candy. Handmade, Joshua's. She didn't know who had placed it there, the butler, Anna? Or had she, subconsciously, perhaps, kept it herself and forgotten? It didn't matter. As she stared at it, a sharpness bloomed in her chest. Not from the crash, not from Edward's absence, but from the truth that sat beside her in silence. She had once been given this candy, warm from the pot, handed with a soft, "Be careful, it's still hot," and she had scoffed at it, rolled her eyes, tossed it aside. She had never even tasted it. And now, she clutched the candy in her palm, curled around it like something sacred. The tears came quietly at first. Then violently. She shook, gasping, sobbing, not because she lost something, but because she had never cherished it when it was still hers. She had let love become background noise, treated kindness like weakness, mocked devotion like it was disposable, and now she was alone. No Edward, he hadn't visited once since the crash, no Anna. She had gone to stay with her grandfather's sister upstate, just Jennifer, and the candy, and the sound of her own weeping echoing off sterilized walls. Hundreds of miles away, a breeze moved gently through the reeds along the sand. The sea shimmered with late afternoon light. Daniel ran barefoot along the shore, his tiny shovel clutched in one hand, trying to build a fortress strong enough to stop the waves. His laughter echoed as the water crashed and foamed around his knees. Joshua watched from the porch, sipping iced tea from a mason jar. Linda was in the garden, her hat tilted over one eye, pulling weeds from the lavender patch. Her hands were gloved, her fingers gentle. Peace didn't look like fireworks, it looked like this. The system hadn't spoken in weeks. Until now. A familiar voice, gentler than ever before, whispered through his mind like wind through chimes. "Host, you made your choice, this is your world now." He didn't answer aloud. Just listened. "Goodbye, host." He smiled. Because this wasn't the end of a mission, this was the start of a life. As Daniel shrieked with delight at a collapsing sandcastle and ran toward him, cheeks flushed with joy, Joshua stood and opened his arms. Daniel crashed into him with all the force a child could muster. "Dad, come look, I made a crab army." "I'm honored, Commander," Joshua said, lifting him high. Linda looked up from the garden and smiled, and Joshua whispered, so soft only the wind heard him, "Goodbye." The sun dipped lower, casting a golden hue across the ocean. Blush rose and pastel gold bathed the clouds in painterly strokes. Joshua sat beside Linda on the porch swing, Daniel fast asleep on his lap, curled like a kitten after a day of joy and salt water. Linda gently placed a blanket over Daniel's tiny body, her hand brushing Joshua's. She didn't speak, she never rushed his silences. Joshua looked at her, the calm in her eyes, the steadiness in her presence. No accusations, no expectations, just quiet existence, offered freely. He had spent 5 years pretending to be part of someone else's life, a marriage signed under pressure, a daughter who saw him as a ghost, a name mocked behind marble doors. Now, he was a nobody, a free, content, whole nobody. Linda broke the silence. "Do you ever miss it?" He turned slightly. "What?" "The life you left." Joshua thought for a long moment. The lavish halls, the crisp suits, the ice that passed for love. "No," he finally answered. "Not even a little." She smiled, the kind of smile you only share at dusk. "Good." He reached into his pocket, pulled out a piece of candy, homemade, imperfect, slightly cracked, handed it to her. She unwrapped it slowly, placed it on her tongue, closed her eyes, then nodded. "This one tastes like peace." Back at the hospital, Jennifer dragged herself from bed. She hobbled to the mirror using her crutches. Her reflection startled her. Scars curved down her collarbone, purple bruises bloomed over once perfect skin. Her makeup was gone, her hair unstyled. For the first time in years, she looked like a human, not a brand. She whispered, "Who am I without him?" Not Edward, Joshua. She had never asked where he went, had always assumed she didn't need to. But now she wanted to ask everything. What made him stay so long? What made him love so quietly? Why didn't he ever fight back? And, what kind of man walks away not with a bang, but with a smile? Her thoughts were interrupted by a knock. She turned, hope igniting. "Anna?" But it was her assistant. "Ma'am," the girl said, voice cautious, "your shares in the company were just sold, by the chairman." Jennifer blinked. He sold me out? He said you're free now." Jennifer sank onto the bed, her last anchor, gone. Not just a failed marriage, not just a broken body, now even the family name was severed. And all she had left was that single piece of candy in the drawer. She reached for it again, held it close. It no longer tasted like pear or hawthorn. It tasted like regret. On the coast, night fell. Joshua tucked Daniel into bed. The boy stirred once, whispering, "Love you, Dad," before drifting back into dreams. He turned off the light and walked into the kitchen. Linda had made tea again. They sat together. Soft music played from a dusty radio. Rain pattered faintly against the windows. For the first time in 5 years, he didn't feel like a stranger in someone else's story. He was exactly where he chose to be. No system, no contracts, just this, just life. Weeks passed. Jennifer was discharged in silence. No banners, no Edward. Not even Anna, who now refused to leave her school's daycare early, always claiming, "Daddy's too far now." Jennifer sat alone in her penthouse suite. The walls echoed. These. There had been a time when she walked through marble halls like a queen. Now, she used a cane to limp across floors that once glittered beneath her heels. She opened her phone. Scrolled through old photos. One caught her breath. A blurry snapshot, Joshua carrying Anna on his shoulders, holding cotton candy she had demanded and never eaten. His face slightly turned, caught mid-laugh. Rare, warm, real. She had deleted most pictures of him, but that one refused to vanish. She stared at it. And whispered, "You were never boring." On the coast, spring arrived early. Linda planted soft pink camellias along the walkway. Daniel ran barefoot, chasing soap bubbles. Joshua watched, sipping coffee. A letter arrived, handwritten, unfamiliar envelope. He opened it. Jennifer's handwriting, shaky, unpracticed, no wax seal, no branding. "Joshua, I never deserved the candy, I never deserved you. If Anna ever understands what she lost, please don't tell her I blamed her. Tell her I was just like her once, and I lost someone who loved me quietly too. I hope you found the peace I always feared. If Daniel calls you Dad, I hope he means it forever. Jennifer." He folded the letter gently. Didn't cry, didn't smile either. He placed it in a drawer. Next to Daniel's drawings, next to a single crumpled wrapper. That night, Joshua walked barefoot across the sand. Linda stood nearby, watching Daniel build a crooked little lighthouse of seashells. The sky blushed with the colors of golden hour. Peach beige melted into dusty rose mauve. The waves glimmered. "Do you regret it?" Linda asked softly. "The choice?" Joshua looked out at the sea. "No, this world may not have been mine at first." He reached down, picked up Daniel, and hoisted him high. "But now, it is." Daniel giggled, arms wide like wings. "Let's fly, Dad." Joshua laughed, running into the wind. And somewhere, like a whisper fading into starlight, the system's voice echoed one final time. "Host integration complete. You are no longer a visitor, you are home." The screen fades. A man, a boy, and a woman. No royalty, no contracts, just family, just peace. Scrolled through old photos. One caught her breath. A blurry snapshot, Joshua carrying Anna on his shoulders, holding cotton candy she had demanded and never eaten. His face slightly turned, caught mid-laugh, rare, warm, real. She had deleted most pictures of him, but that one refused to vanish. She stared at it and whispered, "You were never boring." On the coast, spring arrived early. Linda planted soft pink camellias along the walkway. Daniel ran barefoot, chasing soap bubbles. Joshua watched, sipping coffee. A letter arrived, handwritten, unfamiliar envelope. He opened it. Jennifer's handwriting, shaky, unpracticed, no wax seal, no branding. Joshua, I never deserved the candy, I never deserved you. If Anna ever understands what she lost, please don't tell her I blamed her. Tell her I was just like her once, and I lost someone who loved me quietly too. I hope you found the peace I always feared. If Daniel calls you Dad, I hope he means it forever. Jennifer. He folded the letter gently. Didn't cry. Didn't smile either. He placed it in a drawer. Next to Daniel's drawings. Next to a single crumpled wrapper. That night, Joshua walked barefoot across the sand. Linda stood nearby, watching Daniel build a crooked little lighthouse of seashells. The sky blushed with the colors of golden hour. Peach beige melted into dusty rose mauve. The waves glimmered. Do you regret it? Linda asked softly. The choice? Joshua looked out at the sea. No, this world may not have been mine at first. He reached down, picked up Daniel, and hoisted him high. But now it is. Daniel giggled, arms wide like wings. Let's fly, Dad. Joshua laughed, running into the wind. And somewhere, like a whisper fading into starlight, the system's voice echoed one final time. Host integration complete. You are no longer a visitor, you are home. The screen fades. A man, a boy, and a woman, no royalty, no contracts, just family, just peace.